Good morning. Good morning, Rabbi Fixler. Shabbat Shalom.
Good morning, Barbara. Shabbat Shalom to you.
How good it is and how sweet it is to be together this morning. Umanayim she'erachim gam yachad. Hinei matov umanayim she'erachim gam yachad. Hinei matov umanayim she'erachim gam yachad. How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. Name Matov, Umanayim she'erachim gam yachad. Name Matov, Umanayim she'erachim gam yachad.
It is good and sweet to be together. Particularly sweet for me on this Father's Day weekend to be back leading services. Some people watching may know that I was away for a couple of weeks taking care of my new twins who are home, and it is wonderful to be with them, and it is also wonderful to be back with you, and wonderful to have this opportunity to pray together. A couple of quick pieces of business before we fully dive in. We're going to be showing some of the prayers that you need to pray on the screen, and others you can say with the words that are in your memory or in your heart, or if you're following along in our prayer book, Mishkan Tefillah, or in the digital flip book, we will do the rest to call out page numbers for that as well. Also, Rabbi Hayon wanted me to share with anyone who is joining, who is in Gems of Torah, our Torah study this morning, that he was deeply sorry that you got cut off right at the end as you were getting to the real meat of the issue, and he promises to share some of those thoughts with you again when next he is in that Zoom room, but he was really sad about that. And I want to just acknowledge that we are working to create beautiful and holy sacred space together, even though we are in digital space. We're going to invite you some to participate on the Facebook chat if you're able, but we are grateful to be here with you, and we are going to continue our praying this morning with remarking on how beautiful this space is with Ma Tovu, page 74.
Mish
We continue with a prayer for our bodies and the strength within them, however well they are working this morning, with the words, an alternative reading for Asher Yitzar. Don't let me fall as a stone falls upon the hard ground, and don't let my hands become dry as the twigs of a tree when the wind beats down the last leaves. And when the storm raises dust from the earth with anger and howling, don't let me become the last fly, trembling and terrified on a window pane. Don't let me fall. I have asked for so much, but as a blade of your grass, wild feet, let's drop a seed in the lap of the earth and dies away. Sow in me your living breath as you sow a seed in the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, rofecho basar umafli la'asot.
Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. 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 Elohai neshama shenatata bi. Elohai neshama tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi.
We are going to continue with the Nisim B'chol Yom, the blessings for daily miracles. As we often do, we're going to recite some of these blessings and then pause and share some of the blessings that you are grateful for of miracles that have happened to you today or this week in recent days. So we're going to invite you, if you're watching on Facebook Live, to share in the chat blessings that you are grateful for, miracles that have happened in your life. I'm going to remind you that we're on a bit of a delay, so post your miracles early. Don't hesitate, so that we can see them and share them, and I will read a couple of them out after we do the first 2 pages of these blessings, as we acknowledge our gratitude for those tiny miracles in our lives.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has given the mind the ability to distinguish day from night. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who opens the eyes of the blind. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who frees the captive. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who lifts up the fallen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who stretches the earth over the waters. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who strengthens our steps. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who clothes the naked. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who gives strength to the weary. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who removes sleep from the eyes, slumber from the eyelids.
Amen. So now we share some miracles from you. Lisa is grateful for the miracle of her mother-in-law's miraculous recovery from COVID, as are we. Erin is grateful that she could spend all day outside reading yesterday, and that she didn't get sunburned, which is an important part of spending all day outside. I was sharing with Barbara earlier that I am grateful for the miracle that is my daughter, who was needing to be on supplemental oxygen as of yesterday, is off of oxygen and breathing entirely on her own, which is a big miracle for me. And Jamie is grateful for the miracle of learning and growing as she nears the end of her journey towards conversion. Mazel tov. And Barbara, anything for you?
I am just grateful to be here with you and with everyone watching the service and participating in the service.
Amen. For all these miracles in our lives, the miracles that are big and the miracles that are small, for the miracles that are easy to notice and the ones that sneak past us, for the ones we can speak out loud and the ones we hold dear in our heart, for all of these miracles, we all say together, Amen,
Amen.
as we continue with these blessings.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who made me in the image of God. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me free. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who made me a Jew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who girds Israel with strength. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who crowns Israel with splendor. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Okay, so having said a blessing for the study of Torah, I thought I would do a teeny bit of Torah now in addition to some Torah later. I like to, sometimes when I'm sitting down to study the Torah portion, I like to use a collection of works that's called Mikraot Gedolot. This is the version that I use, that it gathers together commentators from throughout Jewish history on the same verse and puts them next to each other. And what I like about it in part is that sometimes they get in fights. Even though they lived in different times and in different places, they are arguing with each other on the pages of Mikraot Gedolot. And there was an interesting argument about part of this week's Torah portion that I wanted to share with you. So what we are looking at, and I'm going to share my screen, if I can remember how to do that, with you to show you the text. So this is the commandment for wearing tzitzit, for wearing the fringes on the end of your garment that have become in Judaism the talit. And it says that you should speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make fringes for themselves on the corner of their garments throughout the ages. Let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe at each corner, and that shall be your fringe. Look at it and recall all the commandments of the Eternal and observe them, so that you do not follow your heart and eyes in a lustful urge. So the purpose of the tzitzit is to help us remember all of the commandments, kol hamitzvot, and also that we don't wander astray. And Rashi and Nachmanides get into a fight about how it is that the tzitzit actually function to do that thing that we want them to do, which is to remind us of all the mitzvot. And Rashi's solution to the problem is a mathematical solution. He says that the word tzitzit, the numerical value of the letters in that word, every letter in Hebrew has a numerical value, you can add them up and get meanings, is 600. And there are 8 strings on each tzitzit, 4 strings folded over to make 8, and each string also has 8 knots. Here, I'll stop the share so I can hold up. So sorry, it has 5 knots. So if you take 600 plus 5 plus 8, you get 613. And since that's the number of commandments in the Torah, that's the way that the tzitzit are supposed to remind us of all the mitzvot in their totality. That 613 number is supposed to remind us. Nachmanides says, I don't know what Rashi is talking about. Literally, that's what he says. And he says that, like, because other people made tzitzit in other ways with different amounts of dots and numbers, that wouldn't work. And he says that it's all about that blue string that was a part of it. He in some tzitzit, and the only one I could find that was a good example of this was my camp talit, which is tie-dyed. But there is a blue string in addition to white strings. And you saw in the text the commandment that it should have a blue string in it. And he says that the blue string is supposed to remind you of the ocean and the sky. And while thinking of the ocean and the sky, then you're going to start to think of God's throne of glory in the sky, and then you're going to start to think of God. And so you're never going to be able to escape the thought of God. And the focus is not on all the mitzvot, the word mitzvot, but on the word all, on kol, that we are supposed to focus on God's allness, God's everythingness, God's unity with that thought. And what I think is interesting about this debate and the combination of those two thoughts is that I think that tzitzit have this powerful impact of working as a unit, of being a unified whole, but also the difference within the tzitzit, that some are blue and some are white, actually contributes to their ability to function as a whole. And so living in the tension between unity and diversity is a way that we keep ourselves from going astray, from following after that sinful urge that the Torah is talking about. Living in that tension between trying to be the same, but also appreciating that which makes us different, is how we maintain a sense of the unity of God and the unity of humanity in the world. And with that as our intention, we are going to now let every voice, another kol, two different kols, kol meaning all and kol meaning voice, praise God with the words of Psalm 150, which can be found on page 100. On page 106.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה וילמד יברח ירתי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם רב מעולמיה ויפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן מעלמה ואמרו Amen. Please rise for the Baruch Hu.
Join me in the words of Yotzer Or. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer Or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. Hama'ir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha berachamim, uvtuvo mekadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit. Ma'ara abu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita, melah ha'aretz kinyanecha, titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, ve'al me'orei or she'asita yefa'aru chasela, or chadash al tzion ta'ir, v'nizkechu lanu mehera le'oro, Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. And now a reading for the Ahava Rabbah. O God, inspiration and guide for all, you have spoken in 1,000 tongues for us to hear. In every land and every age, your children have heard you and imagined you in separate ways. And yet, O God, you are one unifier of humanity. We give thanks for the sages and teachers who bring us understanding of your will. Gratefully, we recall the lawgivers and prophets, the psalmists and sages of Israel, and joyfully we remember that from the dawn of Israel's life, we would turn to you and find purpose. May the teachings of our ancestors live on in our minds, and their passion for righteousness stir our hearts. Help us to live so that our daily conduct reveals the beauty and wisdom of your truth. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuta Leolam Please be seated. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives and we can begin to change the world. And then you live in our hearts, and we, through righteousness, behold your presence. The words of Mi Chamocha, our prayer for justice and freedom.
Mi Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot oseh feleh, nora tehilot oseh feleh, shira chadasha shibechu geulim לשמך על שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדי חינומך, יהודה בישראל. גואלנו, אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. As we pray the words of the Amidah, we connect through time and space to our ancestral mothers and fathers. May God, who was a source of blessing and comfort and strength to them, grant those same blessings now for us and for all generations. Please rise for the Amidah. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah Rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al givurot, Umita melech meimit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Nikadesh et shimcha ba'olam, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, אלוה כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני, אדוננו מאדיר, שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ורחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, לשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated if you're standing. And Barbara laughed when she saw the cue sheet this morning, because whenever we lead together, I ask her to play her funky version of Yismachu because it's such a bop. So we continue with Yismachu.
ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. מקדשי מקדשי שבי Separation Shabbat Yisrael Malekutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat Korei Oneg Shabbat Yisrael Malekutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat Korei Oneg Shabbat.
Those who sing Yismachu with Barbara will delight in the Sabbath. That's, I think, how that prayer translates, right? Yes? No? All right. The funny thing is that in Zoom, Barbara can see me rocking out, but none of you can see me on Facebook. And so I missed that. That's all I'm saying. And that is one of the things I'm grateful for today. And that turns us to a prayer for gratitude, Modim, and that's a segue. And there is this reading in our prayer book, which I don't have as a slide, but which the refrain after the end of each paragraph is Modim anachnu lach. We are grateful to you, God. And so I'm going to recite that reading, pray that reading now, and ask Barbara to come in each time with the Modim anachnu lachs. And you can join me on page 139, or you can just join with Barbara. We are grateful to you, Modim anachnu lach. For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations. Modim
anachnu lach.
For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons.
Modim anachnu lach.
For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements.
Modim anachnu lach.
For human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression.
Modim anachnu lach.
For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared.
Modim anachnu lach.
For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom.
Modim anachnu lach.
For human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose.
Modim anachnu lach.
We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha u'lecha na'eh lehodot. We continue now with a few moments of silent prayer, an opportunity to offer again blessings for the things you're grateful for in your life, or to convene quietly with that which is eternal.
Yehiyu leratzon imrefi vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai We now transition to our Torah service. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, U'demar Adonai b'Yerushalayim.
This is a story of wandering in the wilderness too long. 2.5 years, 40 years, 80 years, 155 years. And this is the story of why, and this is the story of looking into the promise and losing faith and finding it again. 2.5 years, 40 years, 80 years, 155 years. The first chapter, 2.5 years. The night of December 31st, 1862 was known as Watch Night. The next day would bring the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing of slaves in all rebelling states. Black people gathered all night in churches in the North and around praying trees in secret locations in the South, waiting for the dawn, for God to fulfill the promise of freedom. Frederick Douglass wrote that they waited for a day of poetry and song, a new song. These cloudless skies, this balmy air, this brilliant sunshine, making December as pleasant as May, are in harmony with the glorious morning of liberty about to dawn upon us. As light dawned on that new day and that new year, one could look out to the horizon and almost hear freedom ringing. And yet it was 2.5 years before freedom's bells were heard across Texas. It was 2.5 years after emancipation, on July 19th, that the order to free all the slaves was nailed to the door of Reedy Chapel African American Methodist Episcopal Church in Galveston, and the final slaves in America were technically freed. Technically, because slave owners in the South did not give up their slaves just because General Gordon Granger occupied the state and demanded it. And some states in the North did not fully abolish slavery until the 13th Amendment was finally ratified. But it was 2.5 years before the enslaved men and women of Texas could feel the warmth of that balmy air that Douglass wrote about on Watch Night. 2.5 years of staying in the wilderness, trying to hold on to hope. This is the story of wandering in the wilderness too long. 2.5 years, 40 years, 80 years, 155 years. Second chapter, 40 years. 1.5 years after the Israelites left slavery in Egypt, they stood at the border of the promised land. In this week's Parsha, Moses sends out 12 spies to reconnoiter the land. They trek across it for 40 days and return reporting that the land is indeed flowing with milk and honey. The grapes, they said, were so big that a single bunch had to be carried between two people. But 10 of the spies were afraid. They had seen the local inhabitants and their walled cities, and they said it was like looking up at giants. They said, we look like grasshoppers to ourselves, and so we must have looked to them. Only Joshua and Caleb kept faith. They did not dispute the observations of their colleagues, only their conclusions. Somehow, they saw the land full of giant produce and people and said, God will keep God's promise. If we are meant to be a free people in a home of our own, then we will go forth into the unknown with faith, in a possibility we cannot yet see. But the people lacked the vision of Caleb and Joshua, and they sided with the 10. They rebelled against Moses and God, wishing they could just die in the wilderness, their freedom not yet fully realized. They stood at the very border of promise and could not imagine crossing over. God decrees that this generation will never cross over into the promised land. They will wander in the wilderness for 40 years until the last of that generation is gone. Only their children will be truly free. Nobody but Joshua and Caleb would answer freedom's call. For the rest, their dreams were deferred the moment they stopped believing in them. This is the story of wandering in the wilderness too long. 2.5 years, 40 years, 80 years, 155 years. The third chapter, 80 years. When Miss Opal Lee was 13 years old, a white mob showed up at her house. They wanted to burn the place. The police were there, but they did nothing. Opal's father had a shotgun, but when he reached for it, a police officer threatened that if he fired his gun, the police would hand him and his family over to the ravenous mob. So Opal and her parents watched as their house burned to the ground. That was June 19th, 1940. 80 years later, that lot still sits empty. Its absence is like an inverted memorial, a space where one might be called to reflect on progress made or not made between 1865 and 1940, between 1940 and now. Miss Opal Lee still passes by that negative memorial sometimes on her daily 2.5-mile walks. Mrs. Lee, now a spry 93, is a leader in the movement to make Juneteenth a national holiday. Every day she walks 2.5 miles in the morning and 2.5 miles in the evening, collecting them together in her symbolic march from Fort Worth to Washington. She's walked in states all over the country, each walk representing those 2.5 years between when Texas's slaves were emancipated and when they knew it. Yesterday, her march was supported by other walkers celebrating Juneteenth and by a line of cars socially distanced as they followed slowly behind in solidarity. She has a petition she started a few years ago thinking she might get 100,000 signatures. As of late last night, it had 700,000. Juneteenth is a unifier, she says. Slaves weren't free on the 4th of July, and everybody celebrates the 4th of July. So if we could channel some of that energy into the 19th of June, oh, it would be wonderful. Opal Lee has trekked through the wilderness for 80 years. From the day the mob came for her family to this one, a day where her dream feels closer than ever. Her fight is symbolic. She told the New York Times that she hopes that a Juneteenth observance is paired with more equity in education, in employment, in healthcare. Though she's seen progress, she knows her fight is not yet done, so she will keep walking, though she knows the walk to freedom is never easy. Miss Opal Lee refuses to remain in the wilderness. What makes the difference between Joshua and Caleb and the other spies? Why do some lose hope and perish in the wilderness and others charge forward to build a world they cannot yet imagine? The people who believed in the 10 spies had witnessed the plagues in Egypt and the parting of the sea just a year earlier. They had known revolutionary change and emancipation in their lifetime, and yet, though they stood at the banks of the river waiting to cross over into possibility, they could not move an inch further. It was, more than anything, a failure of imagination. The key word in this story of the spies, repeated over and over, is latur, which means to see. It's an uncommon word in the Torah, and here it appears 12 times, emphasizing that the spies' task, and ultimately their failure, was one of vision. The spies fail because they put stock only in what they can see. They perceive the giants, the fortified cities, and they start to believe that these facts are immutable. Remember, they say, we were in our eyes like grasshoppers, and so we must have seemed in their eyes. Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Kotsk points out that they're entitled to the first half of that sentiment. We felt small, but not to the second. To them, we surely looked small. How could the spies possibly know what the inhabitants thought of them? But they had turned what they saw, giants, into a feeling, we felt small, into an unchangeable reality. To them, we are grasshoppers. From then on, there is no hope for change or possibility. They have let their inward experience dictate their external reality. In their short-sightedness, they have put an end to possibility. Only Joshua and Caleb possess vision beyond what the eye can see. Only they can look to the future, to God's promise, and say, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. Do not be afraid, because God is with us. Rashi, for instance, points out that the walled cities were a sign of the inhabitants' weakness, not their strength. If the people were truly as strong and gigantic as they appeared, what need would they have to fortify their cities? The stories the spies told themselves had hidden from them the reality of possibility. Rabbi Shai Held writes that ultimately the question posed by the text is whether what we imagine possible is limited to what we see before us, or whether we can discern possibilities not immediately apparent to the eye. Because the people failed to heed the vision of Joshua and Caleb, because they see the size of the task ahead of them and mistake difficulty for impossibility, they are doomed to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. This is the story of wandering in the wilderness too long, 2.5 years, 40 years, 80 years, 155 years. It has been 155 years since the Declaration of Emancipation was nailed to that church door in Galveston. 155 years, which we were told were the promised land, but which for Black Americans have been a wilderness. With slavery traded for sharecropping, with lynching, with mobs and riots like the one that burned Miss Opal Lee's home, or the one in Tulsa that leveled Black Wall Street and destroyed over 1,200 homes and killed upwards of 300 people. With Jim Crow and segregation, with mass incarceration and police violence, it's easy to let our eyes tell us a story like the spies. It's easy to feel like grasshoppers in the face of racial injustice. It's easy to let our privilege, our insecurity, our shame silence us. We might look out and see those giants, those walled cities, and tell ourselves a story. I see the scope of injustice. I feel small in the face of it, so it must be impossible to change. But we must be like Joshua and Caleb and Miss Opal Lee, who know that just because it appears this way does not mean it has to be this way. The failures in our past will only dictate the injustice in our future if we let them. We can stand up like Joshua and Caleb and say, do not be afraid. We can be like the abolitionist minister, Theodore Parker, who in 1853 wrote, I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience, and from what I see, I am sure it bends towards justice. The trajectory of the moral arc of the universe is not yet set. We can bend it. The work ahead of us is great. It will not be solved by marches alone any more than it will be solved by making Juneteenth a national holiday. Our portion opens with the command, Shalach lecha, send out for yourselves to see. What we might also translate it as, go into yourself and see. The work of justice begins with our internal work, with looking inside ourselves and confronting our own bias and our own failures of vision. This is not work that happens in a day or a week, but over the course of years. Years we spend wandering in the wilderness, but years where we do not have to wander alone, where we can stumble together in community and across lines of difference. Years we spend looking out towards the horizon, so when that dawn comes, we might be ready to cross over into the land of promise, where all God's children are free. Before Joshua leads the Israelites over the Jordan to the promised land, Moses gives him one final blessing. Chazak ve'ematz, be strong and courageous. May we too know this blessing of strength and courage as we work together to build a world that is more just, more fair, and more free. With that thought in our hearts, we chant a little bit from that section of Torah. But I'm on the wrong page in this book. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Now I'm with you. V'Yoshua ben Nun v'Chalev ben Yifuneh min hatarim et haaretz karu bigdehem v'yomru el kol adat b'nei Yisrael lemor haaretz asher avarnu ba litur otah tova haaretz me'od me'od. Im chafetz vanu Adonai vehevi otanu el haaretz hazot untana lanu eretz asher hi zavat chalav udevash. With Torah still ringing in our ears, we take a moment now for a prayer for healing. It is our hope that God will grant healing and wholeness to those in our lives and in our community who are in need of strength, those in our lives who are struggling with the illnesses we see and know about and the ones that we can't see, chronic pain, hopelessness, with addiction and recovery. For all of these, we offer the words of Misha Beirach on page 253.
May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say bless those in need of healing with refuah shema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say and let us say
A few brief announcements on this Shabbat. First of all, we want to thank David Tanner for helping us with our service. You can't see him, but he is in the background making sure that you can see us and hear us, and we are deeply grateful to him for that. This coming Wednesday, June 24th at noon, our program director, Jason Plotkin, whose birthday it is today, so if he's watching this, happy birthday, continues his conversation series with Union of Reform Judaism Vice President of Strengthening Congregations, Amy Asen. Learn how our Reform movement's focus has shifted during the pandemic, how the URJ is helping communities prepare for the upcoming High Holy Days, and what it means to create an open tent. This program is available. If you're watching this right now, you know how this program is available. Just go back to the same place you're at now, and that's where it will be at noon on Wednesday. Our classics group, for those members in our community in their 50s and 60s, will host a game night on Friday, June 26 after services. We ask you please to register on our website ahead of time in order to get the Zoom link. And lastly, as a reminder, our clergy team and staff are here for you now and always. If you need pastoral support or assistance from a member of our team, please do not hesitate to reach out and let us know how we can best lend a helping hand. Having said all that, our thoughts now turn to a moment of memory. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, life and death. Take a moment now for silent memory. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who've died in this season in years past, and those whom we've drawn into our hearts with our own. Our heart goes out in sympathy to the families of J. Victor Vic Samuels, Elvin Fradkin, Betty Aronowitz, Dorothy Shelby, and Roseanne Finkel, who were laid to rest in recent days. We rise in body or spirit for the words of Mortar's Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabba, v'alma divrach yurtei v'almich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'galau v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Hey shmei Rabba mivorach le'olam omei omayad. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitzomam v'yitnasei, v'yithadar v'yithale v'yithalal shmei d'kudsha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'ne'emata, ta'amiran me'ama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen.
We continue with Kiddush and Motzi for the Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. L'chaim.
Chaim. And challah.
Challah. Beautiful challah.
Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon.
Do you have a closing ditty for us today? It's not in the cue sheet. I don't remember if we do a closing. No, all right, great. Then I will. I'll do a benediction. We'll say goodbye. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors. We have been in the wilderness too many years. We know that the wilderness affects all of us differently. The wilderness is harsher for some than others. We ask for courage and strength as we find our way through this wilderness. We turn our eyes inward to examine our own strengths and our own failings. Think about how we as a community, as a Jewish community, as a synagogue community, as a national community can grow in strength. Make the promise of freedom that Juneteenth celebrates into a promise that is lived and fulfilled in every home, in every city, every place in our country. We ask for strength and courage in this long journey through the wilderness. And we say together, Amen.
Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Thank you for joining us.